I guess. Is Kim coming? The voice of God is not working. Kim, can you hear us?
I can, sorry.
Oh, there you go.
There she is.
Perfect. All right, we're ready. We now bring this meeting of the Westfield Board of Public Works and Safety to order. Kim, would you like to call the roll?
Nick Barbkinick,
Here.
Scott Willis,
Here.
Andy Graham. We do have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Where's our agenda here? Give me a second. We don't need to approve minutes from the last meeting, right? There we go. All right, all right, do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go through the agenda as presented. Action item number 1 is the Westfield Fire Department Station 84 BOT Award. We'd like to hear a presentation now from Chief.
Yeah, Rob Gaylor, Westfield Fire Department. Action item number 1 is dealing with the Station 84 project. So 2023, city passed a resolution to enter into agreement with GKA at the time and Studio Access on the design of Station 4. So through that, we worked our way through the RFPQ process, schematic design, and some things like that. And so action item number 1 is the short list of the folks that presented portfolios to be interviewed for construction of the project. So we started off with 7 and cut them down to a panel, small few to interview, and then interviewed. And so first letter in that is just explaining the process. 7 responses. They were scored. As you see on your screen here, these were the scores. So we shortlisted them and then interviewed the top 3 for this project. So action item number 1 is 1, explaining that process, closing the loop, and then giving a developer recommend. So again, here on the screen is the second letter. After the interview process, proposals were scored and everything was calculated and formulated, and the selection committee, through unanimous recommendation, would like to enter into a contract with Envoy Construction. So that is the premise behind action item number 1.
And we do have to have a public hearing on this.
Yes.
So the decision would not be made until after a public hearing is opened and closed, if there's anyone here to talk about that.
Do we need anyone else? Do we need Ken to present now or later?
He'll be in another
Cool.
action item number 2 and then number 3. He'll have a couple
Perfect.
things there.
So now we can open public comment, I think, if anyone would like to ask any questions about this project. Seeing none, public comment is now closed. And want to see if you have any questions, Mayor, on the BOT award?
Nope, I didn't participate in the interviewing, but from what I understand, it was a good process, had several options to consider, and Envoy was the firm of choice. So I'm excited to work with them, and be the first time I've worked with Envoy as mayor, so that should be a fun experience.
I don't have any questions either. I'm excited about this project and the way the city's doing it as a build, operate, transfer. It really moves a lot of the risk to the private sector and helps it move along a lot quicker. So I'm excited to move it forward. Do we have a motion to approve the BOT award as presented?
So moved?
And I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to award passes. Anything else before we close that part of the hearing? Okay. Moving on to action item number 2, the combined design agreement with Studio Access for Station 84 and 85.
So action item number 2 is a revised agreement with Studio Access. So Studio Access is the design and architectural firm that was selected last year to walk us through the design and the process in a BOT. We've never done BOT in the fire department for any of our buildings. We've done design, bid, build, so this is a new process. So we partnered with Studio Access to do that. Part of this agreement and the revision is to include Station 85. So since they're going to be in such close proximity, it kind of upsets the workflow of everything and the process to get things done in a timely manner. So we'd like to extend that agreement with Studio Access and to cover Station 84, the final couple steps that we have in the BOT process with Station 4, and then start that again with Station 85. With that being said, there's one typo in this agreement, and it's a minor thing, and I'm going to apologize now, but I'm going to scroll through here to the back in this and show you where we are at. It is in this one. So you can see right here in this line there, Station 84 schedule. Yeah, that's the last page. This is actually the proposal for Station 85, not Station 84 in this document. So that's the only typo that I have found in this agreement. It is a AIA standard process. It's been through our legal. Caitlin's already reviewed, and we're good there. But the other document that is with this is the design fee matrix as an explanation. And so at this time, I would like to have Mr. Alexander go through and explain this to you, because I'm sure I will not be as eloquent as he is.
I don't know about that. Ken Alexander with Bravia Services, and more explanation on that in agenda item number 3. I have the 2 copies of this agreement, but what we went through, and if you go back through the process, if you look at the upper left-hand corner of the document, you'll see that we had 3 different responses that went out to the community for design services for this building. And when you look at it on a cost per square foot basis, you'll see that we had Studio Access in at $37.80. As part of the negotiation, what my job is to help get rid of any overlapping costs and expenses. And so by the time we got to contract, we were down to $34.47 a square foot. As this process has gone, I think, very efficiently, and I think that I can speak for the fire department on that they've been very satisfied with this process. There's a lot of opportunity for savings because they understand what the needs are. They can cut down the design time. A lot of what they call programming or scoping opportunities are removed. We can have savings on 84 and 85 by combining the 2 agreements. And it's as you'll see if you look over 84, $30.71 a square foot now, and 85 at $33.83. And so why did the 84 go down? That's because they're going to have time where they call construction administration. What that is that's when the architects are actually coming out to see the work that's being done. It's kind of an inspection period. But they can now duplicate that time to say, well, I'm out here for 85, so I'll come walk the building at the same time. So there's savings there. And so by putting these together, this is a net savings for the city of Westfield.
And that was my hope from day one, was not only the workflow piece that the chief had discussed earlier, but I thought we could bundle these into a cost saving, so it's good to hear that it actually worked out that way.
That's great. And what timeline on this project would the city be receiving guaranteed maximum price after bids and everything to understand the risk going forward?
That's a great question. So, there's many different ways that you can approach it. What I find is the most efficient is you let the bid community go out there and bid the work, and then you can get your guaranteed maximum price without any contingencies on the contractor side. And what I mean by that is there's contingency that the risk that they take in. So if we wait till it gets bid, they can reduce their contingency down to just unforeseens and things of that nature. So it takes it from maybe a 10% markup to maybe something that's closer to reasonable, like 3-4%. In addition to that, as part of this longer process, I'm here managing the whole budget for the project, so I've got to go in and look at other things that go in the building, whether it's FF&E, furniture, fixtures, things like that, work with others on owner-furnished items that come in and build a contingency within our budget that's not made necessarily in the developers, and manage the project going forward. So when would that happen? Right now, I think we're scheduling to bid in May, so we'd be hoping to have that GMP finalized sometime in June.
Love it. Thank you.
So can I have one more question? So for Station 85, I know we haven't really sent out any contracts yet, but a traditional bot, the developer buys the land and holds it, do they not? Are we
Well-
looking at doing that here? Or is the city going to go out and procure the land itself?
So, good question. I think it was in 2022 that they changed the state statute to allow a municipality or government entity to enter into a bot agreement and pick and choose what pieces of that delivery you want to do it. So if there's 3 different components, you have obviously the construction, you have the development, which is exactly what you're talking about, and you have design. And you have also operation, but obviously, I don't think you're gonna have the private sector operating a fire station. Okay, so there's really 3 components there. So you can go after whatever agreement you want following that statute. We dictate that in the RFP. We have not issued that RFP at this time. So we would just have to inform that when we put it out to the community. It said this is what it's for. I would say that it benefits the city to control its own destiny. But I will say that there are benefits to having the private sector acquire property more efficiently than what a municipality has to go through. So I think that those are pros and cons that we'll have to weigh as we move through the process.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns?
No other questions here. Anything from you? All right. Now we'll vote on awarding the contract, the combined design agreement with Studio Access for Station 84 and 85. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Moved and second. I will second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of awarding the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Action.
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to adjourn?
No, it's
Action item number 3, the owner's rep agreement with Bravia Services for Station 84 and 85. Presentation.
Yes, so with the BOT, an owner's rep or a construction manager is a very common piece when it comes to building a project, especially in a municipality. Admittedly, I'm a fire chief and not a construction person, although I have done construction in a previous life. There are things that a fire chief or somebody like that will miss as you go through the process. So hiring an owner's rep that knows the process and works through the flow of everything is really a best practice, in my opinion. And I can say that because as we've started this process, we hired Mr. Alexander and GKA as our owner's rep to start through. Since then, there's been a name change and a change in scope. So what we have before you is a contract with Bravia Services for an owner's representation for the BOT process for Station 84 and 85. I will note that there's a typo in the contract as well. On the second page here, it mentions a monthly retainer fee of $8,800, and I believe that Mr. Alexander has identified that as an error, and I believe it's $8,400. So outside of that, this is the only typo or anything of out of sorts in the contract that I have seen. The other document in here with the agreement is, again, the explanation of the fees, and I'll have Mr. Alexander step up again.
So just Ken Alexander again, Bravia Services. Real quickly about Bravia, just to understand the name change, is that GK was a single entity owned by me. I have teamed up with a service-disabled veteran business to expand our construction opportunities with a larger group. So that's what it is as we try and support veterans and disabled folks in the industry. As far as the explanation, the first one I would say is that this is all based on hours spent. So there's a whole matrix that goes into developing what this is and then coming up with something that is standard and repeatable over time. Obviously, a front end, you have procurement times and things like that where it's a little bit more involved. But I've tried to break down the different scopes into kind of what they would have been from an hours perspective, and you can see where we've gone through the design, procurement, support, procurement for 84, and then you'll see CDs and construction administration. That's where I'm supporting others. With the Bravia Services also, it will not always be me coming out to the job site. We have other folks that will be cheaper, which is how we were able to bring our costs down. That I will obviously be involved in any type of budget, financial issue, or procurement situation and things of that nature. But sometimes going out to just review what's going on in the site, hopefully, is not a strenuous activity, and will be moving along very efficiently with our teams. So what you had is a breakdown there, and then in 85 you'll see a reduction there. Obviously, similarly to the studio access contract, the design procurement aspect is gone. There's a reduction in the SD/DD support because there should be less meetings. We won't be having that, and that's a risk I take on. If there's more meetings, I still take on that risk, and that's up to me. But this is how we've arrived at these hours and the costs associated with it. And if you do the math on the 27 months, that's how it gets up to 8,400. Apologies for the mistake on that.
Thank you. Makes sense to me. Any questions?
I got one question. So at 27 months, is that consecutive months, or is there going to be a gap between 84 and 85 where your services will be?
Well, right now we are anticipating that as soon as we finish the bidding process and GMP, that we would be jumping straight into the design process. And so there will be times where there's an overlapping service there. If that were to be extended out and we were going to push out 85 further out, I'd come back to the city and say, hey, we need to reduce the hours that I'm putting in there, because obviously I'm not putting in that double duty, and just extend that agreement. The hours, the total hours don't change, but the duration of the agreement would change. Okay. So I'm basing this based on the same schedule that's in the studio access agreement.
Just make sure we're coordinating, obviously, with Chief Gaylord to make sure. I know training's a big piece of this timeline and being able to keep up with all the personnel coming into the organization. But just make sure we're thinking far enough ahead and we've got a timeline of events where we don't have that gap. If we don't, it'd make a lot more sense if he's flowing from one project to the next.
So on that, construction for Station 84 actually commenced July of 24, and construction of 25 would commence in March of 25. So that would put us approximately the completion date of Station 4 in October of 25, and the completion of 85s in April of 26. So that's right out of our contract with Studio Access. That's substantial completion. That does not mean that we'll be in there and operating out of that. It's a goal. I think it's feasible, but substantial completion were those dates.
Perfect. It makes sense to me. It's managing the project through and keeping the city informed. Do we have a motion to approve the contract amendment as submitted?
So moved?
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the contract as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it. The motion's approved. Now, any additional business that we might have missed?
Thank you for that. Resolution item number 4, I believe.
Thank you.
Assistant Chief Scott Jordan.
Oh, this is the most important one.
Good afternoon. Scott Jordan, Assistant Chief, City of Westfield. This resolution seeking approval to dispose of surplus property and transfer property to former Chief Joel Rush. It's his primary duty weapon, and it's seeking to transfer it in recognition of his 14 years of service to the department and the community. That's what the resolution is in summary.
Well, thank you for bringing it, and thank you to the chief for his years of service to the city. I think this is a great honor we can pass on to him.
I agree.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you, the chief, for the years of service. Do we have a motion to adjourn now?
Thank you.
Do you need something before?
Yeah.
So moved?
A second. We are adjourned.